Before you even start thinking that I'm going to put myself in front of millions of people, are there certain things that you recommend that we do on ourselves before we go down that path?
Yeah, the first step is really studying what it means to be a good communicator on these platforms. And that's really the first step that we take in our process internally in our process with clients is really research. And what research means is, and I briefly mentioned it before, is going out and looking at the larger ecosystem of social media. What storytelling formats are working? And let me kind of define that. There's, most people talk about trends. Let's talk about trends versus format. A trend is something fleeting. It's an idea, a post, a subject matter that's kind of fleeting in its, ability to kind of work. It may work for a month or a few months. A storytelling format is kind of a storytelling pattern, a storytelling structure that can work for years or decades because it's a structure to insert your information. Like the perfect analogy of a format is the 3-act structure that's used in movies. Every movie uses the same 3-act structure, no matter the genre, whether it's horror, action, comedy, and it's that structure has been around for 100 years, and it keeps working. So what we recommend is really start identifying what are the storytelling structures, what are the storytelling formats specific to the platform that you're working on. And one of the big things is don't pay attention to the content, look at the context, because most people will kind of look for their people trying to share the exact same message, but that becomes difficult because most people in your niche are not successful with social media. And we really want to look at people that are excelling at the highest levels to then cross analyze it against people underperforming. And I would say another big mistake people make is they get so focused on their own content, their own data. And it's just like, let's just say that you're starting out and you can only get 1,000 views a video, if that. Well, how is kind of just constantly analyzing your own video is going to tell you how do I take it from 1,000 views a video to 1,000,000 views a video? It's not. So it's really going out and becoming a student of social media. In the same way, like I went to film school. And what do you do when you go to film school? Well, they sit you down and you watch classic movies, you read classic scripts, and you sit down and you dissect it, you discuss it, you learn through that. The same principles apply with social media, is through that process of really learning and understanding of what's the difference between a video that got 10 million views versus 10,000 views using the same storytelling format. That's where you're going to learn a tremendous amount about what it takes. And that's the best place to start before you put yourself in front of a camera, because if you just put yourself in front of the camera, you're kind of lost of like, well, I don't understand why this didn't work. And then you start thinking that virality and social media success is really luck. There's no science. You get frustrated, you get burned out, all of those different elements. And again, it's the same thing as like if you've never studied script writing or filmmaking, if I just handed you a camera and said, go make me a feature film, you're going to have no idea of where to start, even though you probably watched hundreds of films. It doesn't mean that you understand how to actually go out there and make one. It's the same thing with making viral content or breakthrough content on social media. We all consume so much of it. It doesn't mean you understand the science behind what causes and detracts from success.
I'm going to have two questions on this. The first one is going to be around, if I'm doing research, given that it seems like things are changing so fast in the pace of social media, how far back can you go and review the content of what went viral or not, to still see that what happened there is still applicable to today? And I'd also love for you to address maybe the excuse that we would give ourselves, saying like, oh my God, yeah, sounds like if I want to go viral, I'll need a huge budget and everything done professionally, and I'm just not there yet.
Yeah, I'll start with the latter question first because it's a great thing. Is some of our most successful case studies are solopreneurs creating content on their iPhone with no social media experience. So like that leather expert I mentioned, no social media experience, was really struggling, creates content on his iPhone by himself. We were just working with a hand doctor, no social media experience, garnered like 200,000 followers on TikTok just using her iPhone in a month. It's like, sometimes I would say the more experience you have, the larger the team can work against you from a mindset perspective. That's the biggest contributing factor that we see of people being successful versus unsuccessful, is purely a mindset aspect. So it's not about how big your team size is, how fancy your camera is, or any of those elements. It doesn't contribute. In terms of your first question, so what we typically do is when we're doing research, we'll look at it from two perspectives. We'll look at it from a single channel or single creator, and look at kind of performance, that happened recently versus maybe a longer period of time ago. But yes, you want to kind of look at more recent content. But what I can tell you is, a simple truth about really mastering social media and going viral is mastery of a single format. So I'll give you an example. A friend of mine, Alex Stemp, that I've worked with a little bit, he's at about 22 million followers on TikTok, and his format is he does the man on the street format, where he approaches random strangers on the street and offers them professional photo shoots. Now, he's been using that format for 3 years, and it still works today. And that's allowed him to get 22 million followers on TikTok. Again, with the leather craftsman, he's been using that format for about 6 or 7 months, and it's still working. So typically with these storytelling structures or formats, they will last for a long period of time. They're designed for that. As long as you're executing them properly, it's not like a trend where it's going to last a few months and then you're going to have to jump to the next one. That's why we kind of advise people to avoid going off of trends, because you never truly master the art of storytelling. It's like, if you look at Martin Scorsese or Steven Spielberg, when they're making movies, they're not reinventing the 3-act structure every time they make a movie, because that would hinder their ability to become a master storyteller. Or it's like writing a book, like the best authors in the world, like a Stephen King. Like, they're not reinventing the way that they tell their stories every time they write a book. They're using that format and expressing the story through that format in different ways, introducing different characters, different dialogue, things of that nature.
I like that.